But after dropping 2 of 3, their divisional hopes disintegrated into a wish for the wild card. Now it's on to Boston, where the Hubsters have been humping in the second half. Last night they wanted Mo. I said they wanted Mo. They wanted even Mo of Mo Vaughn. What will the Basher from Back Bay do for a curtain call tonight? Welcome to Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts, where the New York Yankees, they've won today in Game 1 of a double dip, blasting the Brewers 19-2. That means the Yankees have clinched a tie for first in the American League East. Really what the Baltimore Orioles are focusing on is trying to steer home their lead in the wild card berth. But the Mariners have just won and have cut the Orioles' lead to 1. And there you see the Red Sox are 3 back. Hello once again, everybody. I'm Chris Berman along with Buck Martinez. So glad you can be with us on our last regular season Wednesday night baseball game. And, you know, Buck, a week ago at this time, we had that great game with the Orioles in New York for the first of that 3-game series. The Orioles were the team that was on the move. The Yankees were backpedaling. But they blew a 2-1 lead in the 9th inning, losing that game. They have not been the same team since. They're 3-5 since that point, and they got to get going or they're going to have everybody catching them.
Yeah, they sure have to get going. And the knock against the Orioles all year long is they've not been able to win the big game. Against teams at 500 or better, they're 28-46. They have their backs against the wall right now, and they have to turn it around. They haven't really established themselves as what type of club they are. We know they can hit. They've got decent pitching, but they've not been able to come up with a big effort, and they need one here tonight.
The Red Sox approach this 2-game series with the Orioles as let's try and beat the Orioles twice. Let's look at the standings on Thursday morning and reassess where Chicago is, where Seattle is, etc. Well, they did the first job last night, 13-8, and nobody's been playing better in the second half than the Red Sox. Nobody's been playing better than Mo Vaughn with the 3 dingers we showed you.
Well, Mo Vaughn last night was just like he's been all year long, and once again trying to establish himself as an MVP type of player. Against the Yankees in New York, Mo Vaughn showed what kind of a hitter he was, getting key hits in tough situations. Here he singles against John Wetland to tie the ball game with 2 outs in the 9th inning. And then in the 11th inning, once again against the left-hander Graham Lloyd, it's Mo Vaughn who delivers the key hit to drive in the go-ahead run. Mo Vaughn has established himself as a great hitter now. Last night he got his 200th hit here. He now has 44 home runs, 201 hits. He has established a mark that hasn't been repeated since Jim Rice did it in '78.
And he's not slowing down either, is Mo. And the Red Sox aren't slowing down their assault on the Orioles. They send Tim Wakefield, who's been tremendous the second half of the season. The Nuxie going for the Red Sox against the Orioles. We'll be back. Welcome to one of the best ball yards you will see of this or any other century. Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts. And the Baltimore Orioles, the team that has set the Major League record for most home runs in a single season, will go against the knuckleballer. Brady Anderson, Roberto Alomar, Todd Good, Housekeeping Zeal, Rafael Emerson, Lake and Palmero, Bobby Bonilla hitting 5th. Then, like old times, Cal Ripken 6, Eddie Murray 7, B.J. Surhoff 8, Chris Hoyles, the catcher, 9th. Against the right-handed pitcher, the knuckleballer, who was so important last year when the Red Sox won the AL East, and has been so important in the second half of this season as they've gotten back into the thick of things, Tim Wakefield. Brady Anderson, who swings at the first pitch against fastballers, does the same against knuckleballers. 1 pitch, 1 out, as Jeff Manto makes the play at third base.
Well, Tim Wakefield gets an easy out on the first pitch of the ball game. A pop-up off the bat of Brady Anderson. Wakefield, 9-3 in the second half, has had a very consistent knuckleball. Last time out against the Yankees on Friday at Yankee Stadium, he had 8 strong innings and scattered 5 hits. He's given up a lot of hits, and a lot of those hits came early in the year when he didn't have real good movement, and the home runs have been flying out of the ballpark.
This is Roberto Remember the Alomar. Last couple weeks in the 2-hole. Robbie's been... Of course, it's nice to be struggling and hitting .334, Buck, and have 93 RBIs. Remember, he was over 400 in the second week of June. Robbie getting down below 250 here for about the last month. It's interesting to see how the different players approach Tim Wakefield, and that's something we'll look at tonight. I talked to the Orioles at the cage, and I said, isn't it almost a waste taking batting practice? And some of them said, yes, it really is. Some said, oh, no, you want to keep the same thing going. Some people use a heavier bat. Some players use a lighter bat. Some players use the same bat. Doesn't matter what it is. Knuckleballers make you think more than you want to.
Yeah, everybody's trying to figure out a particular approach that works. Alomar is a switch hitter. And Bernie Williams on Friday night hit right-handed against Wakefield. Williams, of course, a switch hitter as well, and there's the first strikeout of the game.
So Alomar is gone. Buck, I think you're going to see Bobby Bonilla hit right-handed tonight against Wakefield.
Number 14, third baseman.
Well, with 2 down here in the first, let's take a look at the Red Sox defensively behind Wakefield. It's Greenwell in left, Bragg in center, and Rudy Pemberton in right. Omar Garcia-Parra is the shortstop, along with Jeff Fry. Behind the plate, Bill Hasselman makes his 22nd consecutive start, and has he done a job? Mike Stanley is out for the season with a neck problem, and Hasselman has taken over the everyday duties.
Yeah, this Red Sox team that we're seeing now is nowhere near the team that began the season. Either they've made some player moves, something we'll get into tonight, or a lot of guys injured. Todd Zeile is one of the moves that Pat Gillick make down the stretch. He's been a big pickup for this club. 8 on the homers he hit in Philadelphia. He's over 20. And that means there are 9 Orioles. 9 of them. All of them in the lineup tonight that have hit over 20 home runs this year. Obviously, Zeile hit the majority of his for Philly. Eddie Murray. Well, actually, the way he's hit homers as an Oriole, probably hit more as an Oriole than he has as an Indian, but those are split. 9 guys with 20 homers this season. Zeile works Wakefield for a walk. And with 2 out, that'll bring up Rafael, Emerson, Lake, and Palmeiro, who for the 2nd straight year was voted by his teammates as the most valuable Oriole. If you look at his numbers, Buck, I mean, he gets overshadowed. The Mo Vaughns and the Frank Thomases and Mark McGuire's, although we'll do more the DH, but you look at what Palmeiro, I mean, just look, 38, 140.
How do you overlook those numbers?
You don't, but people do with him.
Well, there's a good knuckleball. He had that one dancing all over in the strike zone. One thing with Wakefield, you look at the wind. That's what knuckleballers do when they come out to the ballpark. They'll check out the wind, and tonight, what breeze there is from his back, kind of pushing that knuckleball.
This one is hit to right field. Back goes Rudy Pemberton. Back. Gone. Like we said, you can't overlook Rafael Palmeiro. A 2-out walk and a home run, and the Orioles are up 2-0.
Well, we showed you that Wakefield gives up a lot of home runs, and that was a high knuckleball. I mentioned the wind because when the wind's at a knuckleballer's back, the tendency is to push the movement out of it. They would rather have that breeze in their face. And you see this knuckleball doesn't have a lot of movement. It kind of sits right out there on a table out where Palmeiro can get to it. There's not a whole lot of movement on this knuckleball, and Palmeiro catches it squarely.
So a 2-0 Oriole lead, and that'll bring up Bobby Bonilla, who is hitting right-handed tonight, despite the fact that Wakefield is a right-handed pitcher. That's for the knuckleballer. He just feels that maybe he sees better. He can cheat up in the box a little bit. Something we'll watch tonight, too, Buck, and you hit against knuckleballers, although there haven't been that many. Obviously, the Negros and Charlie Huff come to mind, and Tom Cantiotti, along with Wakefield.
Wilbur Wood was in the league with the White Sox.
I wasn't going to bring that up because you were in the league that long ago.
Oh, yeah.
But now Bonilla's not doing this, but a lot of players cheat up almost to the front of the batter's box. He was hit by that knuckleball, and the good thing with getting hit by a knuckleball is it doesn't hurt. 71-mile-an-hour pitch that got away. So let's see if some players move up in the box to make it flutter for 58 feet rather than 60.
Well, you can use any kind of approach and justify it. Right here, Bonilla's deep in the box, and you can see he tried to duck out of the way, but that ball caught him on his hip. I tell you, there are no right or wrong approaches to a knuckleballer. You just have to do whatever's most comfortable for you when you step into the box.
I talked with Cal Ripken about hitting against Wakefield as Cal looks strike one. He said, "No, I find that when I'm hitting well," and Cal had a homer last night in the 13-8 loss, when I'm hitting well, like he is right now, he lofts this to left field. Mike Grimo back to the wall. He can't get it. It's off the wall. Here comes Bonilla running with 2 outs. He'll score. Ripken into second. 3-0 Orioles. Cal said when he's hitting well, I try to do exactly the same things. Maybe take an extra beat before I swing, but I definitely don't change anything. Well, he didn't change anything. There's the result.
Now, Mike Greenwell almost made a catch against the wall here. This will give you a good idea of the left fielder's plight here. almost off the end of the bat, but he gets enough of it to put it up against the Green Monster. Greenwell has a bead on it as it comes down on that Green Monster and makes a jump, but it's just above his glove. And then it bounces back toward the infield, and it's actually the shortstop, Garcia Parra, who comes out and makes a play on it.
Greeny has played that left field wall for a long time, not quite as long as Yaz or Ted Williams, but he's become a fixture here, and a big question for the Red Sox. Eddie Murray swinging at the first pitch, bounces to Vaughn. But the Orioles, who had to come out swinging, did exactly that. They picked up a 3 spot off Tim Wakefield. Kevin Kennedy's squad, 20 games over 500 since the All-Star break. The lineup that Kevin will put out there tonight. Center field, Darren Bragg from Wolcott, Connecticut, leads off. Jeff Fry, these two guys have been big pickups. He's at second base. Mo Vaughn, who's better than him at first base. Jose Canseco, the DH. Mike Greenwell in left field. Bill Hasselman, who homered last night, is behind the plate. Rudy Pemberton, little speed in right field for the youngster at 7th. Nomar, Mr. Nice Guy, Garcia-Parra is the young shortstop hitting 8th. He homered last night. And the well-traveled Jeff Praying Manto is the third baseman hitting 9th against the left-handed pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles, 26-year-old Rick Krivda.
Rick Krivda goes to the mound tonight, making his 11th start of the season for the Orioles. He was one of many starters trying to nail down that 5th spot, and nobody could really grab a hold of it. 2-5 on the season, 12 home runs in 75 2/3 innings. He is not an overpowering pitcher, and he really hasn't learned to master his fastball to make him effective. He's got a fastball, a very good curveball, and a changeup. Defensively, the Orioles statistically are 3rd in the league, but they don't have great range. B.J. Surhoff, a former catcher, former third baseman, now the left fielder. Brady Anderson has had an outstanding year at the plate and in the field, but primarily he's probably a better left fielder. Bobby Bonilla is in right field, flanking Brady Anderson, but overall, Brady Anderson always gives you everything he's got. He can go left center to right center, and he's got decent range in the outfield.
So the Red Sox now staring a 3-run deficit in the face. Darren Bragg will look at a pitch from Krivda, a little bit outside, ball 1. In on the grass at third base is Todd Zeile. Bragg is one of those guys that plays hard every game, and he's added a lot to the defense to the Red Sox. Had a big catch against the wall last night. Bragg kind of playing for, lives right, sometimes about 20 minutes from where I live in Wolcott, Connecticut. About equidistant, about 2 hours 15 from Boston, about 2 hours from New York. So he's playing close to home, a team that he follows, Red Sox.
Well, Rick Krivda has a 3-run cushion to work with, and he came out and threw 2 balls right off the bat. In this ballpark, you can really not afford to walk any hitters. I don't care what kind of lineup you're working against.
Yeah. Steele walk. Palmeiro hit a home run.
This ballpark will jump up and bite you. Krivda missed with that 2-1 changeup high.
Good pitch on the inside corner. Count is 3-2. Guerin was part of that platoon in left field for Lou Piniella, but Piniella needed pitching. They got Jamie Moyer for him, and it was one of those proverbial trades that helped both teams.
Now, Darren Bragg, a young player that over here in Boston has gotten a chance to play every day. You know, when you're in a platoon situation, you have a tendency to really press and try to do too much, and thinking, well, if I get 4 hits today, maybe I'll play tomorrow. It's a tough way to play.
Ball to left field as Surhoff started in on it and goes back and makes the catch. There's 1 out. You know, in addition to hitting that 2-run home run and just making it 142 RBIs now, and for Rafael Palmeiro, which creeps him closer to the leader Albert Bell, 146. He could still win the American League RBI championship. He now has a spot in the Oriole record book. 2-run homer moved him past Jim Gentile, who had 141 RBIs in 1961. That was the Oriole mark. Not Frank Robinson, not Boog Powell, but Jim Gentile in that home run happy season of 61, which, by the way, he hit 46 home runs. But Palmeiro has knocked him out of the book. Just a quick trivia as Jeff Fry steps up. Fry has been a big pickup coming out of the Texas system. A little stability at second base. I think we talked about Jim Gentile last week. What Major League record? I stumped you on this one. What Major League record does Jim Gentile own? It's pretty impressive.
Grand Slam.
2 in 1 inning.
Yep. I remembered. That was last Wednesday.
Yeah, this is a review course. They're not exactly working quickly. Count is 2 and 1. Wakefield works very quickly, as you saw. They work so slow that Fry will step out of the box.
Darren Bragg and Jeff Fry have really provided a spark to this Red Sox ball club. They came into a situation where everything was pretty gloomy, and they've added a lot of character. And the curveball finds the mark. Here's a guy that has always had to try to prove he was worthy of an everyday spot. He actually started out in spring training with the Tigers, got released by them, went down and signed with Oklahoma City and played well, and then Kevin Kennedy, associated with him in Texas, brought him over here.
Little chopper. The Steele will fire across the Palmero, and there's 2 out in the Red Sox first. And here's the crowd for Mo.
The first baseman, number 22, Mo Vaughn.
Talk about an old-style, business-only approach. Speak softly, carry the proverbial big stick. Here's the man, Norwalk, Connecticut.
He's a ball player. He is the type of guy that goes out there and just does his job. Look at those numbers. We're talking about Palmero's numbers. How about 326, 44, and 142? He backed up his MVP season with another MVP type of season.
His mom said, hey, go out and do something better. I said, gee, my MVP. I mean, I can't really do much better than 39, 126, and 300. Well,
he did.
He did. And he's not done.
Very good changeup inside. You know what? There aren't too many left-handed pitchers around the league that'll throw changeups to left-handed batters. I think it's a great pitch. They're trying to go outside. You see Hoyle's target, but Krivda throws it inside. I think the change of velocity is what makes it effective. But a lot of left-handers won't throw it to left-handed hitters because they feel it'll tail back into their happy zone. Jimmy Key had a lot of trouble getting Mo Vaughn out until he started pitching him inside with a changeup. Vaughn would swing over the top of it. Vaughn is so good to left field. He had 2 home runs up into the net over the Green Monster here last night that you've got to do something to keep him from off of the outer half.
He worked inside to Vaughn and punches him out. Mo was looking away, and Krivda did some good pitching. 1-2-3 inning for Krivda and the Orioles after 3-0 Baltimore. Kind of a quiet and chilled crowd thus far tonight at Fenway, but they'll pick up in a little bit. Still, even though the Red Sox playoff hopes are, I don't want to say faint, but aren't great. Last night they had 28-5, and the crowd looks to be about the same tonight, even though it's a little bit chillier. 8-9-1 for the Orioles against Tim Wakefield, Surhoff, Hoyles, and the top of the order, Brady Anderson. Buck had a chance to do something last night that I rarely get a chance to do these days. Just sit in the crowd as a fan. With my Hartford Whalers hat tucked way down over my face so no one would see it. Sat with my 2 college roommates. 2 of my college roommates bought tickets, drank sodas, and watch the Red Sox.
Great place to do that.
It's the best.
You walk through the tunnel here and see the Green Monster, and it's a pretty special baseball park.
Most fun about coming here is Wakefield starts off 1-1 with Hoyles. You get dropped off in center field and you walk around the outside of the Green Monster. Look up at the screen. One travels a pretty good distance to left field, but Greenwell is there, and there is 1 out. And you walk around the park and you look up at the screen from the outside, and you can imagine that view from the street. In the old days, they don't do it as much anymore, Buck. They didn't do it last night. You used to be able to look up and say, that was so-and-so's homer. Then walk a little bit farther along and go, that was so-and-so's homer. Because Vaughn, I wanted to see his 2 lying in the screen last night.
They'd leave the balls up in the net.
Yeah, they used to leave them up there. remember I was at a game here one time in that 75 season. Catfish Hunter pitched for Oakland as Chris Hoyles comes up. A 10-9 game. There were 8 homers, all in the screen, none of which cleared. Every ball was lying in there. We were trying to say, let's see, that was Fisk's, and I think 6 feet over, that was Bando's. Now, wait a minute, Rudy's was over here. That was great. Folks, if you haven't been to this park, put it on your agenda next year. Quick pitch by Wakefield, fluttered away, down and away, and Hoyle swings at it, strike 2.
Because here's a guy that was talking an awful lot about Wakefield before the game. That's Chris Hoyles, the catcher. He was trying to decide light bat, heavy bat. I think he settled on a heavy bat. A little bit heavier than his normal bat.
Greenwell with a long run makes the sliding catch. Hey, Mike Greenwell isn't the best defensive left fielder in the history of the game, but he doesn't cheat you on hustle, and he doesn't cheat you on what he represents for this Red Sox team. Only he and Clemens are left from the last team in the playoffs in 1990.
Hoyles hit that ball off the end of the bat, and it was kind of a dying quail out into left center, but Greenwell got a decent jump on it. You can see he doesn't run that well anymore, but he'll give you everything he's got. Hard to imagine that Greenwell is just the 4th of 4 left fielders going all the way back to the 30s with Ted Williams. Williams, Yastrzemski, Rice, and Greenwell.
Yeah, not bad. And all of them are here at some way tonight. There's Jim Ed. And then Yaz's and Ted Williams' numbers are 2 of the 4 retired by the Red Sox, and they're the overhang in the right field seats. So in some ways, the entire history of the Red Sox in left field is here tonight. And of course, the other thing about 9-4-1-8, Bobby Dorr, Joe Cronin, the other numbers, ripped it gone. 9-4-1-8 when the Red Sox won their last World Series, September 4th, 1918. Better inning for Wakefield. Canseco due up. The Red Sox down by 3. Back in Boston, Jose Canseco will try his luck, followed by Mike Greenwell against the left-hander Rick Krivda. And you just thought that last year, Buck, when the Red Sox signed Jose Canseco, that if he could stay healthy and have one of his years in the land here of the Green Monster, Kevin Kennedy would have himself a 50 home run guy. Of course, Canseco, keeping him out of the trainer's room is tough. But even like by accident, Canseco hits home runs. 28 this year, so he could get to 30, despite the fact that for Jose, this is just game number 94. I mean, just remember when these classic home run hitters come in this park, like a Mark LeBlanc.
Joe Carter owns the record for visiting home runs here in Fenway Park. Perfect pull hitter to hit in this ballpark.
You know who would have, though, if he played more time in this division? Dave King. You saw him come in with the Yankees for the first time he'd ever come into Fenway. I think he had 4 in the 3-game series. His batting practice was a joke.
See Canseco's numbers since coming off the DL. He had back surgery. He had a ruptured disc back in July. That back had been bothering him all the way back to spring training, and he felt like at one point something was going to happen, and sure enough, he eventually had to have surgery. Good pitch. Cutter to caught the inside corner. Krivda did a good job of setting up Canseco. He went changeup away, fastball away, had Canseco thinking about the outside part of the plate, then busts him inside, and Canseco can't pull the trigger. Hoyles is set up inside. You can see just a little cut fastball that catches the inside corner. You've got to pitch inside as a left-hander in this ballpark. You've got to make the hitters think about both sides of the plate.
2 strikeouts for Krivda. Canseco will grab the bench. And Mike Greenwell swinging at the first pitch. Little flare to left field. Surhoff coming on. And he's not going to get it. It bounces off his head. And Greenwell caught in no man's land. Will have to go back to first base.
Well, the wind is blowing over the Green Monster back toward home plate, and that wind was pushing that ball away from B.J. Surhoff all the while he was trying to close ground on it. Surhoff started out playing third base, and now he's in left field. You could see that he dives, and then the ball bounces up and hits him on the face. Surhoff was deep, and then the little flare comes and dumps in front of him, hits the turf and bounces up and hits him on the face, but he kept Greenwell at first base.
Keep the puck in front of you. That's what they tell you. You know, it looked like a World Cup soccer promo. They're up trying to head the ball in. So Greenwell at first with the first Red Sox hit of the night. And the catcher, Bill Hasselman. He's done a good job in relief of Mike Stanley, who's had that lower back problem, and now will need the neck problem, I meant to say. And ripped down to third. Zeal, Alomar, look at the turn by Robbie to Palmeiro, and a double play by the Orioles. So we've played 2 here in Boston. 3-0 Baltimore.
Back at Fenway, top of the 3rd inning, Orioles up 3-0. Robbie Alomar will lead off the inning. And it was Alomar's fine turn at second that got the Red Sox out of a scoring possibility. Here, Bill Hasselman hits a one-hopper to Todd Zeal. He throws a strike to Alomar, and look at Robbie coming across the bag. An off-balance throw right on the money to Palmeiro for the 5-4-3 double play. Alomar is a wizard around second base. He has the ability to step back, make a strong throw with a strong arm, or he can come across and throw sidearm as he did on that play.
Alomar struck out in the first inning against Tim Wakefield. Little chopper to third. Manto was in on the grass anyway. Fires across the ball, and there is one out. And let's welcome in our Baseball Tonight studio, our good buddy, Gary Miller. Gary?
All right. Thanks a lot, Chris. I'll be here to keep you posted on all the other action, but of course nothing matters to the Yankees anymore. They've clinched the AL East. Here's the last out at Yankee Stadium. The Yankees had already scored 19 runs. Nelson knew he got the last out. Vigna pops to Bernie Williams. Their first AL East title since '81. Joe Torre, a year ago, got fired by the Cardinals. Now he's in the playoffs.
You set out on a mission, and this is just a part of it. You know, we have 3 more steps to go. But it's a big thrill. I mean, you're out here at Yankee Stadium. I'm just glad we were able to do it at home to just get the goosebumps.
Joe's a good man, and the Yankees play good baseball. They caught themselves just in time last week against the Orioles as Zeal chops it. Garciaparra across the ball, and there's 2 outs. And Joe now becomes one of a handful of managers, Davey Johnson trying to also do the same thing, who has taken teams to the postseason in both leagues.
Joe Torre deserves a lot of credit. When he was hired initially, there were a lot of people around New York that were questioning why Joe Torre. But with that tough media town and the fact he had so many superstars on the team, Joe Torre kept them on an even keel all year long.
Never flustered. Joe was never flustered. That's a job that can fluster even the best of them. Palmeiro, who hit a 2-run homer his first time up, looks at strike 1. The thing that impresses us the most about the Yankees, why they give a different look in the playoffs than a Cleveland, or than a Baltimore, or than a Texas, or really than a Seattle, is they play more National League ball than those other teams. Much more. Little things. Don't necessarily play for the beginning, although with Fielder and Strawberry they could. But what got them up there in the first place were little things, right?
And they got away from that.
Yes,
That
they
hurt
did.
them. And then finally they got back to playing hit and run and using the sacrifice, and they were able to wrap things up there tonight.
This is Garciaparra on the grass. And a 1-2-3 inning for Tim Wakefield, who after giving up 3 in the first inning has now settled down for a pair of 1-2-3 innings. 3-0 O's. Bottom of the 3rd inning, the Red Sox trying to get something going against Rick Kribda. They trail 3-0 against the Orioles. And when we finish here, we'll go out to Chavez Ravine for the Giants and Dodgers. The middle game of that 3-game set. Game 1 of the Dodgers last night. Barry Bonds could be 40-40 man this year, as 3 stolen bases shy. He already has 42 home runs. And first, Mike Piazza, a catcher, winning a batting title. He has a lead over Ellis Burks by 342 to 338 going into the night. He's not worried about the batting title. He's worried about the San Diego Padres. And with the Padres losing to the Rockies last night and the Dodgers winning against the Giants, L.A. leads by a game and a half. And, of course, the Pods and Dodgers finish up this weekend in Los Angeles. Even though the Giants have had a season they would like to forget, they would like to at least leave their calling card against their arch rivals, the Los Angeles Dodgers, team that Dusty Baker used to play for. Here is the young outfielder, Rudy Pemberton. And it's slugged to left field. Back it goes. Back. Score! Rudy Pemberton getting a chance to play these last couple of weeks has home run number 1.
Well, that's what Fenway Park will do for you. Give you an opportunity to get right back in the ballpark. You see that fastball stayed out over the plate, and Pemberton was able to extend his arms and really hammers it high up into the net over the green monster in left field, and a 3-run lead can evaporate in a hurry here at Fenway.
And congratulations to Rudy Pemberton, his first major league home run. That's a great feeling, huh?
Well, to play in a pennant race with a new ball club, he had spent about 6 years in the Tigers organization, getting a chance to really establish himself there, and he has made an impact here.
So with all the home run hitters, the Cansecos and the Vaughns, it's Pemberton that does the job against Rick Krivda. Here's Nomar Garciaparra. It was suggested this week we should go with Nomar, Mr. Nice Guy, Garciaparra, so we're going with it. He is the shortstop of the future of this club. Played a couple of years ago with the Trenton Thunder, the Eastern League, as the first-round pick of the Red Sox in '94. Played 43 games at Pawtucket this year, and after in 43 games he had 16 homers, 46 RBIs, and 343. They figured, well, let's bring him up. Now, of course, with John Valentin hurt on the play last Friday and the slide into Jeter, Garciaparra has a chance. This has a chance, too. Back it goes. Gone! Garciaparra has homered for the second time in 2 nights against the Orioles. We told you 16 homers in 43 games at AAA, and boy, the Red Sox getting power from the bottom of their lineup.
Well, when you come into this ballpark as a fan, you better strap yourself in because leads go back and forth all night long. This ball is out over the plate. And let me tell you, Garciaparra didn't take advantage of the green monster. He goes opposite field and hits one into the bullpen in right center. That's a long way out there. That's where the big boys go.
Well, if Pemberton is homered and Garciaparra is homered, obviously Jeff Manto will homer. That'd be unreal. Jeff Praying Manto, who has had a season of travel the likes of which have rarely been seen in the major leagues. May need about 5 pitches to get in just this season. Started with the Yomiuri Giants, played 10 games in Japan. He signed with the Red Sox in early May. Went down to Pawtucket, then was recalled by the Red Sox, got hurt, went to Florida on an injury rehab, played a little rehab at AA Trenton. Then was called up to Boston, sent him to Seattle, and as he walks, he was actually playing in Boston as a member of the Mariners. Then he was traded by the Mariners to the Red Sox, and he was actually playing in Seattle as a member of the Red Sox. So Manto has been all over, and his luggage eventually arrived, as his pitching coach Pat Dobson to the mound.
This is the type of ball game that Pat Dobson has seen over the years. He pitched for the Orioles in the early 70s. You come into this ballpark and you can't get gun shy. You have to be aggressive and you have to continue to use all of your pitches. Just like that, you get down into the 7th, 8th in the batting order and you go back-to-back. The Red Sox have gone back-to-back now for the 4th time. Generally, you expect it to be Vaughn and Canseco, but tonight it was Rudy Pemberton and Nomar Garciaparra.
Well, the wild card standings up to the moment. The Mariners have won, stopping their 3-game losing streak, which followed their 10-game winning streak. The key number here is the loss column, Buck. The Orioles just have a 1-game lead over the Mariners in the loss column. 2 over the White Sox, 3 over the Red Sox. The White Sox are home tonight to Kansas City. Gary will keep us posted. The White Sox play home to Kansas City and then 3 at Minnesota. The Mariners Well, that's a whole other story. They have a game to play on Monday in Cleveland if necessary. That might force a playoff, which could happen on Tuesday, and push back one of the American League Series, which were both supposed to start Tuesday, to Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Red Sox have the tying run aboard, and Darren Bragg up and Krivda behind 2-0. David Johnson surprised some people by picking Krivda to pitch this game. He is their 5th starter. And it surprised some folks. Coppinger was originally slated to go tonight, but he figured that he's got 4 games left at Toronto. Let's pitch my main 4 and give Coppinger, who's had the sore elbow, an extra day of rest.
Well, he gives every one in the rotation an extra day's rest, and that's what he was thinking about. If I push them back and start Coppinger tomorrow, then I'll have everybody on 4 days rest, and my big starters all set. So he started Krivda here tonight.
Coppinger, Erickson, Messina, and Wells. Chopping. Palmeiro to Ripken to get the lead man, Manto. Bragg is on at first. 1 out. So Jeff Fry will come up. But what a different look at this lineup, although here's Pemberton and Garcia-Parra that hit homers. You got a Pemberton and a Garcia-Parra and a Manto and a Bragg and a Fry. It's a team that started with Canseco, Mitchell, Mike Stanley.
Dwayne Hosey was the center fielder.
No, John Valentin, one of the best power-hitting shortstops in the game. Timmy Naring, who has some sock at third. It's just a total different look. But this is the club that's responded after that awful 6-19 start. They're 20 above 500 the second half of the season.
Once again, Krivda's taken a long time in getting a sign from his catcher. Jeff Fry asked for timeout.
Fry shows bunt, pulls it back, takes it for a strike.
Davey Johnson checking the matchup, seeing what he's got down in his bullpen. His bullpen is not in great shape. Alan Mills, the hard-throwing right-hander, is really starting to throw well again. He's got a bit of a groin problem, and they don't think he'll be able to pitch. He strained his groin 2 nights ago against Milwaukee. And they're a little thin out there.
Well, he was using Myers and Mills, lefty-righty, to be closers, dual close. That changes his whole thinking out there. Davey had the glasses on looking at the chart book. He was looking for something he didn't know before. They could find something. Hey, this team has scored 15 runs the last 2 games and lost both of them. So, I mean, he needs some work.
Well, that's another reason why he can't panic in this situation. You've got to hope that Krivda can give you 4, 5, maybe even 6 innings.
Play. Old style park, obviously. 1912. And there's not a lot of room in foul ground here at Fenway. Fans are right on top of the action. And you can see down the right field line and left field line, there's like no room in foul ground. You need a shoehorn to hit a foul ball down the line and not get in the crowd. Krivda hit 0-2. Fry. Inside, Drew Koval has rung him up. It's a big strikeout for Krivda, number 3 tonight. And that'll bring up Mo Vaughn, who he has struck out in the first inning.
In Mo Vaughn's first at bat, Krivda got him out inside. Throw an inside changeup, throw an inside fastball for strike 3. So let's watch Mo Vaughn in this at bat, see if he tries to get the head out and get on some of those inside pitches.
Right at second baseman Alomar, who will fire over to Palmeiro, and the Red Sox are gone, but not until Pemberton and Garcia-Parra hit a pair of solo home runs. We get a 3-2 ball game after 3. Well, you're for playing 2s and 3s tonight in the lottery. This is the perfect game to do it in. 3-2, the Orioles over the Red Sox, and those are the only digits wild tonight. Tomorrow night, college football. The Duke Blue Devils against the Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech at 8 Eastern Time. And we'll begin with Chris and Coach Corso and Kirk Herbstreit with our weekend kickoff show starting at 7:30. Then the ball game is at 8 from Hotlanta. 8 Eastern, 5 on the West Coast, and of course, at 6 Mountain Time, that game will begin.
Well, the shortstop for the Red Sox to be watching, Garcia Farr, was an All-American at Georgia Tech.
He might be busy tomorrow night when the game is going on. I don't think he's that much of an established veteran as Bobby Bonilla.
Sneak up in the clubhouse and watch the Yankee game.
I don't think he's going to watch the key drive in that game while the game's going on. Bobby Bowe hitting right-handed, as we pointed out earlier, against the knuckleball. They're trying to give him some sort of advantage. Was hit by pitch in the first game. Scored on Cal Ripken's double. After Palmeiro had a 2-run home run to make it 3-0, and then Pemberton and Garcia Parra had solo home runs in the bottom of the third, and that's where we stand. There they are. Bobby Bowe and Cal.
Now that's the sight lines if you're sitting in the first row behind the batter's box. It's great. You just can't beat this ballpark. There's a fastball. They blew right by him. Well, maybe not blew by him, but surprised him.
Creep by him. Crap. Inside, and Bonilla is aboard for the second time tonight, and that'll bring up number 8, Cal Ripken. And you know, when you listen when he's announced, you know that Boston's a baseball town.
The shortstop, number 8, Cal Ripken.
He gets applauded every time he comes up, as all the great players in the American League do when they come into Fenway Park. Yes, he's the opposition, but yes, he's a great baseball player. Fans understand the big picture here at Fenway. Of course, Cal is, kind of eager to get back in the postseason. The Orioles have not been there since '83.
Cal caught the last out of the '83 World Series against the Phillies, the line drive to shortstop.
You look at that number 8, and in Fenway Park, number 8 is very special meaning. Yaz and Cal. Doesn't get much better than those two, does it? Count is 1-2 to Ripken. We are 3-2 Orioles. Top of the 4th inning. Chris Berman along with Buck Martinez. As ESPN brings you our final Wednesday double dip. On Sunday, we'll be everywhere we need to be on ESPN and ESPN2 to bring all the games that are meaningful. Cal reaches out and sends it to left field, but Greenwell is there in front of the track and makes the catch. There is one out. Let's go back to Gary Miller.
Chris, very meaningful game in Comiskey Park. The White Sox back in it all of a sudden. Kevin Apier had already given up a hit to Davey Martinez. Robin Ventura just squirts it through the infield. Ventura's RBI number 105. And the White Sox, behind Tapani, break on top 1-0.
All right, Gary, thank you. Boy, a big 3-run 9th inning for the White Sox last night after Belcher had him handcuffed. And that might have, without that 3-run 9th, that might have closed the door on them.
Yep.
But they're now very much alive.
Ventura had a big hit in that inning.
Durham had the winner. Here is Eddie Murray. 501 home runs. Has been well documented. Aaron Mays Murray. 500 homers, 3,000 hits. That's it.
Obviously, the running game is something you can utilize against Tim Wakefield with that knuckleball. He is quick to the plate, but obviously it's difficult for the catcher to really stay back there and come out of the chute. He's got to battle that knuckleball, first of all, trying to catch it.
He had the slam recently, moved him into second all-time on the Grand Slam list. 19 in his career. Passing Willie McCovey, who had 18. Only Lou Gehrig with 23 has had more Grand Slams. I mean, he's on every list you need to be, just about.
Well, he hit that Grand Slam against the Blue Jays, and that was only the second hit of the game for the Orioles. They got 2 hits and beat the Blue Jays 6-2. Eddie Murray delivered a key blow once again, as he's done so often throughout his career. There's a dancing move on the ball that's out of the strike zone.
So, pair of walks this inning, but he down to second base, Murray to first.
Number 17.
And that'll bring up B.J. Surhoff, who blew out the left to lead off the second inning.
Now, Tim Wakefield will always walk a lot of hitters. He walked 5 last time out against the Yankees and still won the ball game. Take a look at the ball coming out of his hand. Ideally, you don't want that ball to spin, and that's why you get the good movement. When the air hits the flat side of that baseball, it dances all over the place. That was a great shot of showing that ball as it comes to home plate with no rotation on it whatsoever. You know, you call it a knuckleball, but basically it's thrown off your fingertips. And ideally, what you try to do is release it in such a manner that it imparts no spin whatsoever.
Wakefield had his semi-annual tune-up with Phil Niekro. Part of the reason that he's pitching better. He was 5-9 before the All-Star break. He's been 9-3 after the All-Star break this season, Buck. And Niekro kind of settled him down and said, hey, 1 inning at a time here. Thinking too much. Vaughn tried to get 2. Now, oh, he still got 1. Ted Barrett gave us the slow motion call down at first base. Mo short hopped it. I figured I can get 2 and got too excited.
Well, he got his body in position to throw to second base, but didn't have a grip on the ball. It's a hot shot right to Mo Vaughn at first base. B.J. Surhoff hits the short hopper, and you see he turns, but never had a grip on the ball. And now he's got to scramble to get Surhoff at first. They were fortunate to get the 1 out.
So runners at second and third now. A little dink hit by Chris Hoyles, who played a pair. Hoyles, the number 9 hitter in the Orioles lineup, and he has 25 home runs. The team now has 250 home runs with Paul Mero's 2-run homer in the first inning. Of course, the old record by the 61 Yankees at 240. The A's now have 240 homers. And actually, I assume the Mariners hit some today. I don't know what they had in today's game. They had 238 going in. Up the middle. Fry! Vaughn with the scoop. Oh, good defense by both Fry and Vaughn, saving a pair of runs. So we steamroll to the bottom of the 4th, 3-2, Baltimore.
One-run game in the bottom of the 4th inning, and Jeff Fry, the second baseman for the Red Sox, keeps it at 1 run. Look at the effort here by Fry. He is thinking about saving at least 1 run, and then he throws from his knees in time to get Chris Hoyles. He kept the ball in the infield initially, and then he gets the 3rd out of the inning to keep the Orioles from scoring. Tim Wakefield very appreciative of Jeff Fry's effort. He makes his 93rd start at second for the Red Sox here tonight.
Well, that ball went over Wakefield's head. He was thinking, there go 2 runs. Fry was equal to the task, and Vaughn with a good pickup, kind of getting righting himself after he clubbed that ground ball, which could have been 2 earlier in the inning. So the Red Sox with good defense, and here's Canseco, Greenwell, and Hasselman.
You can sense how the momentum is shifting over to the Red Sox now. After the Orioles got 3 runs in the first, the ballpark was quiet. Now there's a buzz.
Ripped by Canseco to dead center field. Back it goes, back. Caught. They hit that into the teeth of the wind, Now, dead center is not the deepest part of the park. I, along with all the fans, thought that was out of here. That's just 379, but the wind now on the flag, you can see, is coming straight in from center, and that may have cost Canseco at least an extra base hit.
And I don't think Canseco really hit this ball that well. I don't think he got all of it. That ball got in on him a bit. He really didn't get after it and extend after it. You see Brady Anderson right in the corner at the 379 mark. Makes the easy catch.
Greenwell pops it behind the plate. Hoyles gives chase. It's off the screen. Now, Brady first sized up the wall and see if he had to play a scraper. And then he realized, hey, I can play this on the fly. And of course, there have been thousands of games played here, and most of our viewers know that, but left center, we're almost dead center field at 379 where Canseco hit it. Right center at 420 is the deepest part of the park. And it's 1-1 to Mike Greenwell. Greenwell, one of the decisions the Red Sox have to make. Rip, but that's going to be foul. Roger Clemens was quite vocal this week about Clemens' contract status. He's a free agent for the first time in his career, wants a 4-year deal. He's also quite vocal about the Red Sox should keep Mike Greenwell for everything he has done. They should make sure that Tim Naring stays. A lot of players that don't know their status at this point for next season. Roger a little fuse here at Fenway the last couple of nights. Greenwell inside outs at the left. Surhoff is there to make the play, 2 outs. Always making the play, Gary Miller.
Back to Comiskey. White Sox start the night a game and a half back in the wild card race. They were up 1-0, but as soon as McFarland hit it, Tony Phillips knew it. His 19th home run of the year with Johnny Damon running on the pitch. He can slow down. The Royals are up 2-1 as the White Sox bat in their half of the second. Back to you, Chris.
All right, Gary, thanks. Mike McFarland, who, of course, was a big help for the Red Sox last year. And indirectly may be a help to the Red Sox again with that home run. See, if the White Sox lose and the Red Sox win, I know they have to leapfrog a lot of teams, they would then be even in the loss column. So they essentially will have caught the White Sox. The White Sox with 74 losses, the Red Sox with 75. So even though Boston would still be 4th after tonight, they have a game at hand.
I don't think Kevin Kennedy ever considered this would be a possibility after that 6-19 start. No worst start in franchise history.
0-5, 2-12, 3-15, 6-19.
And it was ugly.
Yeah, Kevin handled things pretty well, I thought. He took all the blame, and Wakefield was part of the reasons. He was nowhere close to the way he was last week.
Wakefield was 0-3. You know, we talked to Mo Vaughn in Baltimore when they were going through that stretch, and he said, you know what? Everybody on this team needs to take some of the blame. The pitchers aren't pitching well. The defense has been awful. Managers and coaches, they've even made some mistakes, and everybody has let this organization down. But they have gotten it turned around.
Now, since the All-Star break, the ERA is a full 1 run better for Boston. 2-2 pitch for Hasselman. You know, I look out there and I look at his number 37. And of course, Canseco with off injured, Kevin Mitchell off injured, gone. We went through the laundry list before. Of course, Valentin not there right now after that hard slide on Friday into Derek Jeter. Fly ball, the right long run for Bonilla holds up there for him though, and Hasselman is gone. So 1-2-3 inning for Rick Tribbitt. 3-2 Orioles. Brady. Top of the 5th inning here at Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts, and a chilly night in late September in New England in the hub. Yeah, the Orioles got 3 in the first. Palmeiro a 2-run homer. The Red Sox solo home runs by Pemberton and Garcia Parra in the third. Made it 3-2, and Brady Anderson swinging at the first pitch again. Rounds out Manto to Vaughn, and there is 1 out. Right, Brady, one of the reasons why the Orioles just came out of the chutes flying. An 11-2 start. And between he and Alomar, Buck, that was flirting with 400, it looked good for Baltimore. Then they hit the skids big time. The Orioles at the 28th of July were 51-52, 12 behind the Yankees, courtesy of that 4-game sweep a week or two before that, and it looked dire straits. And after that, Davy Johnson's club was 31-15 until we saw them in New York on Wednesday for that 3-game series. Problem, they blew that game in the 9th, lost this first game of Thursday doubleheader big. To their credit, down 6-1, salvaged the 3rd game of the set. But they've just been 3-5 since starting with that Wednesday game.
Well, the Orioles feel that sitting around, they got rained out on Monday. They were supposed to play a makeup game with the Brewers, and then they get rained out on Tuesday. So they had to sit around 2 whole days and not play. They lost a little bit of their edge. They sat at Yankee Stadium for a 2-hour and 45-minute rain delay on Tuesday, and then the game was finally canceled.
Coming on is Pemberton, going out is Fry, and Fry is there. Alomar is gone. But that game we saw, Buck, on Wednesday was one of the superior baseball games we've seen in a long time. Erickson against Pettit, then Myers worked the first 2 in the 9th. Orioles saw the Yankees tie in the 9th. The Yankees win it in the 10th, and you know, since that, the Yankees spot was precarious at that point. Now, tonight, they've already clinched the tie for first.
Well, they came back and used Mike Messina to start that game, and he didn't have much.
Todd Zeile doesn't have much here. Garcia Parra out on the grass, and an impressive 1-2-3 inning for Tim Wakefield. We're heading to the bottom of the 5th. This is the part of the lineup that went long ball last time against Rick Rip.
An update from the vet scoreless game between the Expos and Phils. David West with 2 outs delivering to Moise Alou, who doubles into the gap. Mike Lancey's going to score from first. The Expos take a 1-0 lead behind Paniagua, but the Phils have answered with 2 of their own, including a run-scoring double by Morandini, who later scored an Amaro single when the White Sox have tied it up on an Ozzie Guillen ground out. 2-2 with the Royals as they continue to bat in the 2nd, and we go back to Fenway.
All right, Gary, thank you. You see the name of Moise Alou. There's some talk that he might come here to the Red Sox next year. And Duquette, of course, from the Montreal system. Who knows? But we do know that Rudy Pemberton in his first Major League home run is blasted back. And now he's fouled out to Palmeiro just in front of the Red Sox dugout. So 1 pitch, 1 out for Rick Tripp, who, except for the 3rd inning, has given Davy Johnson everything he could have asked for.
Yeah, just a couple of bad pitches, the home run to Pemberton and the home run to Garcia Parra.
The shortstop.
He has kept them in this ballgame.
Garcia Parra.
Well, here's the young shortstop, Garcia Parra, from Whittier, California. Buck told you, played his college ball at Georgia Tech, 23 years of age. And everyone in Boston hoping that he can be the same sort of young shortstop. Maybe not quite the same as Alex Rodriguez or Derek Jeter and some of the other fine young shortstops around the league, and there are many of them. But he may be not quite ready in the eyes of some of the Red Sox to be the everyday shortstop. They have a pretty good one in Valentin. I put the youngster into this spot next year. There are many on the Red Sox that feel that it's a tad early.
Well, there's no reason to put a young player into a situation where he's going to struggle. Kevin Kennedy has the luxury of having John Valentin on his team, and Valentin said, in my mind, I'm still a shortstop.
Long throw for Zeile to Palmeiro, and Garcia Parra is gone, 2 outs.
Now, Todd Zeile was picked up because of his bat, but he gives him stability at 3rd base. Right there with Garcia Parra running down the line. Watch how quickly Zeile plants and fires across the diamond. Right down the line, he catches it and plants that right foot and throws all in one motion.
One other note on Garcia Parra, so the thought is, okay, Cordero still may not be right at second. Do you want Fry? They don't want to move him to second base at this point in his career. That's not the option right now. Nor should they.
No,
I don't think.
not at all. Got a chance to be a very good offensive shortstop.
I mean, think of all the shortstops that just could grace this game for easily the next decade.
Jeter and Rodriguez are the first 2 to come to mind.
Ordonez with his defensive image. Grizzolanic is a great player, real fine player. Montreal. Renteria down in Florida. And shortstop Gonzalez, Blue Jays. There are others.
How about young Kevin Elster?
Yeah.
What a season he has had for the Texas Rangers.
Well, the Rangers have righted their ship here a little bit, and I don't think there's any coincidence with the fact that they started winning when Rusty Greer came back in the lineup, homered in his first game.
Well, Jeff Fry, who was Greer's teammate last year, pointed that out around the batting cage. He said, Rusty Greer is a lot to do with the success of that ball club. They've won 3 of 4 games since Greer has returned on Saturday. Greer had a fractured rib and missed 15 ball games. And not only do they lose his potent bat, they lose, in my mind, the best left fielder in the American League.
Well, you know what's fun as we talk about all this, and Crib that comes in 1 and 2, good play by Hoyles, is that we're talking this and we're going to be able to experience it. The playoffs. Who's in, who's going to do what? And then we'll get into this more next half inning. But ESPN will be there starting this Sunday for all the meaningful games on a combination of ESPN and ESPN2 going back and forth. Any playoff game Monday if necessary, like the one we had in Seattle last year, we'll do. If the Seattle at Cleveland game is necessary, you'll see that on ESPN. If there's a playoff game after that for the wild card or for the West, you'll see that on Tuesday. You'll see 2 games on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday in the playoffs, 1 on Thursday, 1 on Friday, perhaps 3 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. If all the series go to 5 games. The majority of the first round of the playoffs here at ESPN, and this is your definition of check your local listings. Because every day things will change where they'll be, and we're just excited to have a piece of it this year.
It'll be great. First time that all the games are going to be on.
I think the fans should be excited that they will see every game. Here's Darren Bragg. Breaking ball. Missed on the outside corner. Ball 1. Yeah, I'm looking forward. We've been looking forward to this all year, and hopefully we'll deliver what you fans want, and that's baseball. We've been at it since the last day of March. That opening game was in March this year at the Kingdome. And we hope that you share our merriment and our privilege of bringing the games to you next week. We'd like to wish our friends at NBC and Fox a good postseason as well. We'll all be involved in the first round, and then we'll take it from there.
Oh, he almost got him. Rick Cribb lulled Jeff Manto to sleep, and Manto was just taking that extra step off the bag at first base.
He was almost caught in Yomiuri on that play.
Watch Manto, top of your screen. Takes that extra step. Yeah, he's going to second. Wait a minute, he's coming here.
Thank goodness he didn't have a big lead. No, he did not go around, says Mark Johnson, the umpire at third base. Drew Coble behind the plate. Ted Barrett at first. Fielding Colbreth at second. Johnson at third. I don't nickname umpires much, but it's got to be baseball fielding dreams, Colbreth. Field in your position, Colbreth. Oh, we could have a field day. Fielding day with that one. Fielding mouse. Well, man, that's open season.
Davey Johnson again looking up at the lineup card on the wall, trying to figure out where he goes after Cribb does. He continues to struggle here.
Fouled, which Hoyles and Zeal will give chase to. Oh, did you see that? Hoyles fired his mask. It went off Zeal's chest before he made the play. Oops.
Well, they can laugh about it now because Hoyles caught the ball for the final out of the inning.
Here it is. Get out of here. Hoyles makes the play. 3-2 Orioles. We're back and swinging at the first pitch is Rafael Palmeiro. Darren Bragg grabs it. 1 up, 1 down for Tim Wakefield here in the 6th inning. And after Palmeiro had a 2-run home run in the first, and Cal Ripken had an RBI double, he got Eddie Murray to ground to first base. And since then, well, you see the result. No one has gotten a hit off Tim Wakefield.
Well, that knuckleball is a very sensitive pitch, and it took Wakefield that inning to get it straightened out. Bobby Bonilla's got a different bat up at the plate this bat. Remember, we talked about the Oriole hitters trying to find the right combination of bat length and weight. Bonilla, switch hitter, batting right-handed. Palmeiro hit a home run in the first inning on a knuckleball that didn't knuckle.
Bonilla didn't even need to use it. He got aboard on a hit by pitch and a walk. He's been aboard twice tonight. The only Oriole to do that against Tim Wakefield. Yeah, there was the old 58-foot Nuxie. You know, as a catcher, 53 miles an hour, Mike, that's not even the speed limit. As a catcher, did you catch knuckleballs?
Yes. Bruce Del Canton.
Oh, yeah. Did you use the pizza glove?
I had a big glove. It was a lot bigger than the one Hasselman is using. And Bruce Del Canton threw his knuckleball very hard.
I mean, that's bigger than usual, but that's not the full pizza. This may be a full pizza. Bonilla to left field, but no, that's going to hang up in the wind. And Greenwell is there, 2 outs. What's the biggest glove you ever saw?
The knuckleball glove. This is about 18 inches long, and it was a big sandwich pancake glove. This glove is a trimmed-down knuckleball glove. It's almost like a first baseman's glove. Benito Santiago, when he was catching Charlie Huff with the Florida Marlins, designed the glove like this. It's much more streamlined. You can see that it just got a big web, almost like a hockey goalie's glove.
Ripken gets under this one. Long run for Garcia-Parra. Now, Greenwell, well, they miscommunicated for a moment. Greenwell eventually called him up and made the play. So again, a 1-2-3 inning for Tim Wakefield. The Red Sox send up the heart of the order in the bottom of the second. 3-2, the Orioles lead the Red Sox in this very important game here at Fenway Park. A couple of important college football games this Saturday at 12:30 Eastern. That's 10:30 Mountain Time. Northwestern, the number 25 Wildcats, are at Indiana. And then at 7:30 Eastern, 5:30 Mountain Time, number 13, the Longhorns of Texas, are at number 19, Virginia. The Cavaliers, Cavs are 3-0, off to a good start. Boy, a lot of good college. Virginia and Virginia Tech playing some good college football. You didn't think I followed that stuff, did you? It's time to be a man for all seasons. Key baseball games, obviously the NFL. And who would have thought, as Jeff Fry steps up, that the undefeated teams in the NFL would not include Dallas, Green Bay, or San Francisco, or Pittsburgh at this point of the year. Hockey, training camps open. I mean, you get all sorts of things. Meanwhile, this Rick Kripke, except for the back-to-back homers by Pemberton and Garcia-Parra, Buck, Davy Johnson couldn't have asked for anything more.
No, that's a good line for anybody. 5 innings, 3 hits, a couple of home runs, but he has done a good job here tonight. Now he's mixing up all of his pitches, changing speeds very effectively. Pat Dobson went out there when he was struggling a bit with his command in the 3rd inning after giving up a couple home runs, and reminded him to be aggressive and use all of his pitches, and they have gotten a good start from Rick Kripke.
Broken bat to shortstop. Ripken, Palmeiro, Fry is gone. And with 1 out, that'll bring up Mo Vaughn, who was 0 for 2 tonight after a thunderous night here last night. Mo with the 3 home runs and then a single in the 8th off Myers. And when he hit the 3 home runs last night, he became only the 5th left-handed batter ever to hit 3 home runs at Fenway. Except for Tim Raines, which is kind of the oddball. Look at this. Boog in '66. Orioles went on to win the World Series. Ted in '46. Red Sox went on to get in the World Series. Lou Gehrig, 1927 Yankees. I think you know they won the World Series. So, I mean, it's kind of the first 3 are real momentous guys in momentous years. Only the 5th guy to do that. Not a left-handed hitter's park for home run. But it goes out to 380 in a hurry in the Oriole bullpen.
Well, Mo Vaughn's got himself in a hole here, 0-2. Kripke has pitched him tough, and it started way back in his first at-bat when he threw him a changeup inside. I think that messed with Mo's mind.
Mo going inside out, and that's why he's a guy that has 202 hits now. Base hit. Vaughn is aboard with one out. Here's Gary Miller.
Update from Comiskey. The White Sox came back to tie it in their half of the second, but they couldn't hold it. Bases loaded. Robin Ventura could have gotten out into the inning with a double play. He makes the error. Joe Randa has given the Royals their second run of the third. Tap, and he's already out of there. It's 4-2.
All right, Gary, important game there for sure. Seattle has won. And the White Sox have to keep pace with everybody. They trail it. Here's Jose Canseco. 0 for 2. Struck out looking. Fly ball to center field. It first looked like it had a chance to get out and then hung up there for Brady Eaton.
Canseco just missed that ball. That pop up to center. It went on the warning track at 379, but he really didn't get all of it. He says he feels like he's in the third week of spring training after coming off a DL. Timing just isn't there yet.
You know, we just haven't heard from, oh, that's Rip, watch out, down the left field line. The way he started with Oakland, and the way that team started hitting home runs. 33 his rookie year, then 31, then 42 when he was the MVP in '88, at 44 and 91. You know, but you haven't heard from him really of Canseco-type years, and he still is already 55th on the all-time home run list with 328. Really, it's been several seasons since we've had a classic Jose Canseco home run year.
All right, enter Terry Matthews, who was picked up from the Florida Marlins, begins to throw down in right field.
Well, he pitched that 10th inning when the Brewers won it on Monday, 8-7. Bill's not available, and Myers used.
Davey Johnson knows he has to do a little bit of juggling down in that bullpen tonight. But he can't complain about what Rick Trivda has done for him here tonight.
2-2 pitch to Canseco. Fastball inside. You said it. Working inside.
Yeah, you've got to pitch big right-handed hitters inside in this ballpark. If you allow them to look on the outer half of the plate, they'll hook the ball into that net over the green monster. So you've still got to play both sides of the plate. Davey Johnson has finally got Matthews up down there, and it won't take him long to get ready.
Good pitch that was outside the strike zone that Canseco waved at. Yeah, he worked him very well. Strikeout for Trivda. There are 2 outs. Second time he's gotten Canseco tonight.
First time he struck him out in the second inning, it was an inside fastball that surprised Canseco. This time he goes outside, gets a little movement, and Jose swings at that ball off the plate.
4 strikeouts for Trivda. That'll bring up Mike Greenwell, who singled on a little flutter ball to left that B.J. Surhoff could not come up with, but then did scramble to get it to hold Greenwell to a single rather than a double. Well, the Red Sox have a tough call to make with Greenwell, but Greenwell has said, I will take less money to stay in Boston. Fort Myers Flash. The Red Sox even train in his hometown. Spring training, I mean, it's perfect. He's, came up and was on the roster in the postseason in '86 in the series. He was not a main part of that team yet, but he does go back to the series squad. Will Palmeiro have room? Yes, he does, looking right into the camera as he makes the catch. So Vaughn stranded at first base. We've played 6, a 3-2 Oriole lead. Back at Fenway Park in a pitcher's duel, although we've had 3 home runs. The Orioles lead the Red Sox 3-2 in the top of the 7th inning in a game that they really have to have. Keep their breathing distance over the Mariners, the White Sox, and the Red Sox. And if the Red Sox don't get this game, that's it. I mean, not mathematically it. They would have 4 left. Orioles with 4 left, but they'd be 4 behind Baltimore. So Boston knows, so does Tim Wakefield, and he's pitched that way. Buck, Murray, Surhoff, and Foyles. The Orioles have not had a hit since Ripken's double with 2 out in the first inning, except for 2 walks. Wakefield has been perfect since that point. Two walks, 16 outs, last 18 batters.
Well, I mentioned last time out when he faced New York at Yankee Stadium, he walked 5, but he was able to pitch around those walks. He hasn't had that real quick darting knuckleball tonight, but he's been in the strike zone fairly consistently.
Vaughn will handle it himself. Murray is out. 1 out here in the Orioles 7th. Well, I think of this pitcher's duel, and it brings to mind, and Red Sox and even Oriole fans will remember, 1975, that magical game of the Red Sox, the magical year of the Red Sox. The Orioles came in for a Tuesday, Wednesday, late September series, 4 games behind the Red Sox. Game 1 was Louis Tiant against Jim Palmer. And, of course, you could not get a ticket. Tiant used theirs. Jim Palmer, of course, a member of the Orioles. We talked about that game tonight. 2 solo home runs by Rico Petrocelli and Carlton Fisk, and Tiant won it 2-0. Darren Bragg makes the catch from center, and there's 2 outs. For that game, Tiant had the shutout. He used to walk in, Buck. You remember those days? He'd warm up in the bullpen and take that long strut, and 34,000 people yell, Louis, Louis, and it was an unbelievable experience just to watch him. I mean, it was like Ali coming into the ring in those years.
And he felt it, too. He enjoyed walking into that bullpen.
He took him about 10 minutes to get in. You talk about a Cadillac walk.
El Tiante.
Here's Chris Hoyles. I bought a ticket for $1.25 and sat in the bleachers for that game, Buck. Got up here about noon. Opened the gates at 5:30. Sat, had a sandwich, threw the frisbee. Got our ticket. Sat right behind the Red Sox bullpen. Watch Tiant strut in at number 23. What a great night that was. Ripped up the middle, and so the Orioles have finally solved Tim Wakefield. First hit since the first inning. Hoyles is aboard with 2 outs.
Number 9, center fielder, Brady Anderson.
Not just the 3rd hit off Tim Wakefield by the Orioles. Orioles just got the big part of the bat on the ball and ripped it into center. Boy, 77 pitches into the 7th inning.
What, he got a 2-inning span there with, what, 11 pitches or 13 pitches?
You know, he made the start on Friday in Yankee Stadium and then went to Kevin Kennedy and said, listen, I'll pitch out of the bullpen on Sunday or start again, whatever you need me to do. And if they continue to win, he is going out to the bullpen and pitch out of the bullpen the final 4 games against New York.
One and 1 to Brady Anderson with Hoyles on first. Orioles leading by a run, 3-2. Brady will foul this one back and out of play. Obviously, Brady did not hit a leadoff home run tonight, but in the midst of his 47 home run series, he can do the following. The Orioles team record is 49 by Frank Robinson. If he hits 1 more home run in the first inning, leading off, he'll tie Bobby Bonds' mark of 11. He's set with the Giants at 73. He also, as a leadoff hitter, has 31 home runs. That's the 2nd best. All these home runs have not been hit as a leadoff hitter this year, but 31 of them have. And only Bobby Bonds in that 73 season had 35. I know I'm giving a lot of numbers, but this is the enormity. The only thing larger than what he's done at the plate with the home runs at the sideburns. It's great. Gets under this one. Pemberton coming on. Makes the play, and it's 7th inning stretch time here at Fenway. The Red Sox trail the Orioles by a run. Here's the view from right field at Fenway Park. The Orioles a 3-spot in the first, and it stood up thus far as Rick Krivda has solved the Red Sox, and Tim Wakefield leading 3-2. Well, Terry Matthews is now on the pitcher. Chris Berman along with Buck Martinez, and been quite a tour this year, and looking forward to next week. This perfect place to end our Wednesday stay.
Yeah, this epitomizes the summer that we've had. Another good ball game. The Orioles scored 3 in the first inning, and the big thing about that is I know Davy Johnson sitting on that bench thinking, man, I wish we could have scored some more. They're in the bottom of the 7th with just a 1-run lead.
Yeah, the Orioles, certainly the Red Sox need the game and have to have it. The Orioles just can't afford to stumble much longer and stagger home as the wild card entry. Terry Matthews is the new pitcher. Buck told you a little bit about him, coming over from Florida. And he's done all right at times.
Well, lately he's really had a rough go of it. He's allowed earned runs in 5 out of his last 6 outings. And, of course, an earned run in this situation right now, and he would allow the Red Sox to tie the game.
Now, let me ask you, the Crib did not pitch an inordinate amount of pitches. Are you surprised to see him out of here in the 7th inning?
No, I'm not. And the reason I'm not surprised is just because you got 6 good innings out of him. They didn't really know that they were going to start him. And you get a chance to get a fresh arm in here out of the bullpen. Don't force your hand with that situation. You bring a right-hander in here to pitch to Hasselman, a powerful hitter. Hasselman hitting .348 against left-handers, and there's Cribda behind Eddie Murray. And he can be very pleased with his outing tonight.
Off the end of the bat, popped up to short right field. Bonilla on, Alomar out. Robbie will take over and make the play, and there's 1 down in the Red Sox 7th.
Alomar had to go way out there in right field because Bobby Bonilla was so deep in this situation. You can't afford to give up an extra base hit. So the outfielders are going to play deep. The wind is blowing in, and this ball gets blown back toward the infield a little bit, but look how deep Bonilla is. Alomar, with the arms in the air, waves Bonilla off and makes the play.
Rudy Pemberton, his solo home run, his first major league home run in the 3rd inning. He fouled out to the first baseman, Palmero. Fouled it off himself. Strike 1. Much quieter crowd than last night. Well, of course, Bo Vaughn hits 3 home runs. And
they scored 21 runs in that game last night. 13-8. This is unusual for Fenway Park. 5 runs and 7 hits here in the bottom of the 7th.
Which puts it on an even right now if you're adding up the runs, hits, and errors. And here's Tim Wakefield hoping that he can rattle around that bat back a little bit and get him a couple runs. How often do you see it? Team gets 13 one day and struggles the next. This one had smoke on it, past the diving Ripken. And of the 5 hits tonight by the Red Sox, 2 of them are by Rudy Pemberton.
Boy, Pemberton hit a bullet right past Cal Ripken, and Ripken could barely take a step up the middle. He dove for it, but it was by him before he could get over and cut it off.
So the young shortstop, Nomar Garcia-Parra. Father's name is Ramon, so that's spelled backwards. So they named their son. In there for a strike from Matthews. Garcia-Parra homered, grounded to 3rd. You know, the Red Sox finished, Buck, with the 4-game series against the Yankees. But with the Yankees now up already 4-1 in the 3rd inning of the nightcap, which would give them, if they won the AL East, Kevin Kennedy's squad will not see Cone and Pettit over the weekend, as they were slated to pitch in case the Yankees needed the game. And they're going to get ready for the playoffs. So, I mean, it's not that the Yankees aren't going to play hard if the games matter. I'm not implying that, but they catch a break, and that the Yankees won't have to pitch their aces. Well, they'll pitch a Boehringer or whoever else. Mendoza.
They're going to have to get Jimmy Key a start here tomorrow.
Yes.
They can't sit him down completely.
No, they'll pitch tomorrow and Friday, the regular.
Yep.
But Cone and Pettit, Saturday, Sunday, out. They might pitch him 2 or 3 innings in relief just to do it over the weekend, but that's all.
Yeah, they're not going to really push them, obviously, because they don't know when the playoffs are going to start to begin with.
Well, they assume the American League 2 playoff series and one of the National Leagues are due to start on Tuesday. And actually, if there even is a playoff involving the Orioles and Mariners, I'm going to get myself in trouble here, but I believe that Yankees would play the Western champ anyway. Depending on who is in a playoff in the American League, if there is one of the 2 series could still start on time. It's hard to explain, but that's the way it works out. But that's next week. We know we'll get all the games. Pemberton took off. Now we'll have to hustle back as Alomar is out on the grass. Garcia is gone. And very quickly, the pitching summary brought to you by Sherwin-Williams Paint and Wallpaper Stores. Both Rick Krivda and Tim Wakefield painted the plate. Both very impressive tonight, except for the first inning for Wakefield and the 3rd inning for Krivda. They had command.
Well, they sure did. Look at the hit total. Just 7 hits in this ball game, and Rick Krivda will be very proud of this performance tonight. He gave up back-to-back home runs to Pemberton and Garcia Parra, but other than that, he has kept the Orioles from scoring. Excuse me, the Red Sox, of course.
From McKeesport, Pennsylvania. He has the baby face and, of course, you know, Little League country. Little number that Palmeiro will handle, and the Red Sox, except for the single to Pemberton, go quietly here in the 7th. Old-fashioned pitchers duel in Fenway Park. 3-2 O's. Back at Fenway, the Kelly Springfield key plays of the game for the Orioles against Tim Wakefield that happened right out of the gate. Rafael Palmeiro with homer number 39, a 2-run home run. Cal Ripken a couple batters later with an RBI double. It was 3-0 O's. But in the 3rd, the unlikely back-to-back combination of Rudy Pemberton and Nomar Garcia Parra gave the Red Sox a pair of solo homers and cut it to 3-2, and that's where we have stood as we now move to the 8th inning. Alomar, Zeal, and Palmeiro up for the Orioles. Orioles fly from here tonight to Toronto, where they'll have a 4-game set with the Blue Jays. And when is Henkin going to go for Toronto, Buck?
Sunday. They should get Woody Williams, Paul Quantrill, Eric Hansen, and Pat Henson. That will be the 4 Blue Jay pitchers that the Orioles will face.
Henkin's had quite a year. Ground ball to second. Fry, Vaughn, Alomar's gone. 0 for 4 tonight. Well, the Orioles have clung to this 1-run lead. There's Cal, of course, Mark Planned Parent, the caddy for Scott Erickson. Chris Hoyles, the regular catcher, B.J. Surhoff and company. They want to get out of here with a split. Go to Toronto and took 2 or 3 from the Jays this week.
They went to Toronto in 1989, hopeful of getting into the postseason. And the Blue Jays beat them in extra innings on Friday and then clinched the division on Saturday. They beat Dave Johnson on Saturday, and Dave Johnson, the pitcher for the Orioles, pitched a very strong 7 innings for Baltimore, but they lost a tough game on that Saturday afternoon. Frank Robinson was the manager of that team.
That was the team that came from nowhere with all the young kids. There's not a young kid, Jesse Orozco. Left-hander up throwing for Davey Johnson. That was a fastball. Tried to sneak past Zeal.
And Wakefield thought that he had caught the outside corner.
And I just heard a pop of the glove, and I went, what?
From another one. Back-to-back fastball. You know, we talk about the hitters having to deal with Wakefield's knuckleball, and then the catcher has to catch it. But the umpires also have to be patient in their call, because oftentimes it breaks very late, and you've got to really kind of go with the flow of it.
Garcia-Parra, the shortstop, calls for it. He's got here. I didn't think of that fucking. The hitters sometimes going into a game with a knuckleballer, they can't sleep, they can't think. What does Drew Koval think the night before he's going to work the plate for a knuckleball?
The same thing as a hitter thinks, oh man, I got to deal with that knuckleball. You never really know where it's going to go. You see Zeo's frustrated. That's what it'll do to you. A knuckleballer will make you throw your helmet, smash your bat against the wall. It looks so hittable.
But it's not. As Palmeiro has just found out, he clubbed one in the first inning, but right here, a weak grounder to Fry. A 1-2-3 inning for Tim Wakefield to the bottom of the 8th. Orioles clinging to the 3-2 lead. Back at the bottom of the 8th here at Fenway, the Red Sox trying to get the equalizer against the Orioles. Rick Krivda kept them at bay through 6 innings. Terry Matthews did it in the 7th, and Jesse Orozco, the veteran left-hander who pitched for Davey Johnson with the Mets 10 years ago, doing it again as an Oriole now. He comes on to work, especially with Bragg and Vaughn coming up this inning, so they go lefty.
Now, Jesse Orozco struck out 4 of the batters he faced on Sunday against the Blue Jays, struck out 5 of the last 7 he's faced. So he has done a good job recently. Last night he tried to get loose and his shoulder just wouldn't allow him to come into the game, but he had plenty of time to warm up here tonight. And Davey Johnson has gotten to him here in the bottom of the 8th inning.
He's also gone to a new catcher, Buck. There's Mark Parent, one-time Padre, who's been around. Cub does a good job here defensively, and that's part of the thinking. And with the left-hander Darren Bragg up and the left-hander Orozco in, Kevin Kennedy has gone to his bench, and he has summoned Will Bungie Cordero, who came over from Montreal with such high hopes but never really has recovered from that knee injury. And so he will pinch hit. The wheels are spinning here at Fenway in the bottom of the 8th inning. Because of the wild card, Seattle has won. Chicago is trailing at last report from Gary. And you know this score right here. 3-2, Baltimore, bottom of the 8th. Seattle finishes up with Oakland. Chicago finishes up with Minnesota. Baltimore finishes up with 4 in Toronto, and the Red Sox finish up with 4 here against the Yankees. Will Cordero. Move made by Kevin Kennedy. Foul back by Cordero. Orozco comes in there with a fastball, strike 1. To joke with Kevin before the game, boy, it must have been a busy weekend for you. Went to that secret wedding, John Kennedy, at down at that island off Georgia.
Well, he just got back just in time.
Yeah, he said, actually, I got married during the All-Star break. I said, so I went to my own secret wedding. So there's a big times in Hyannisport this year for the Kennedy clan up here in Massachusetts. Ooh, kind of a backdoor breaking pitch on the outside corner, strike 2.
Well, Cordero as a pinch hitter is 4 for 10. And this time Orozco, you can see Parent's target is the inside, but Orozco lucks out and catches the outside corner.
Painted the wrong corner. And now he's ahead of Cordero 0-2. Gets under it. This will float to right field. Bobby Bonilla floats over himself. And there is one out here in the Red Sox 8th. Don't forget Dwayne Stats. Joe Morgan will call the second half of our double dip. The Giants at the Dodgers. Is there a better rivalry in sports than this one? Mike Piazza and company trying to nail down the NL West. And what a season they have gone through with Tommy Lasorda and Brett Butler. Just to name 2 major events, major individuals. They can hang on, and they could be a real troublesome squad for the Atlanta Braves. With that pitching they have, 1 through 10. And with Piazza and the guys in the middle of that lineup, Dodgers trying to hold off the Padres and don't close the door on them yet. Although the Padres have that game-and-a-half lead over the Expos, too. So, like we did last year, we could have 2 teams from the NL West. Fry is grounded to second, struck out, and grounded to short. Way outside. Ball 1. 1-1. Mo Vaughn on deck. And Seiko after him. Imposing figure number 42, the defending MVP of the American League, Mo Vaughn. Not going to win it this year. Not sure who is going to win that, Buck. That's a tough call.
Boy, that is really up in the air. There are a lot of guys have an MVP-type seasons. And of course, everybody talks about Alex Rodriguez, Ken Griffey Jr., Juan Gonzalez.
Ripped down the line, but foul.
You know what? Sometimes you're thinking about the on-deck guy, Mo Vaughn, and the little guy can jump up and bite you. Jeff Fry gets a fastball, and you could see he was out in front of it, hit it right on the nose, but it hooks out of play.
But now Orozco ahead 1-2. Ahead of Cordero. Blew him out to right. He's ahead of Jeff Fry. Left field, B.J. Surhoff is there, and 2 up, 2 down here in the 8th inning. And that'll bring up Mo Vaughn. Crowd's been quiet, but Mo will bring him to your feet even if he doesn't do anything. Even before he even steps to the plate. Mo 2 of 14 lifetime against Orozco with 1 home run. Everybody on their feet. Way outside, ball 1.
Vaughn's 3 home runs yesterday came against the left-hander David Wells. He hit 2 fastballs into the net in left field and a curveball into the bullpen in right field.
Way outside, ball 2.
Davey Johnson brought in Jesse Orozco to get Mo Vaughn out. Kevin Kennedy's hopeful that Mo can deliver like he did last night.
Mo and Red Sox annals. .142 RBIs to put him way up the ladder. You know who's next.
Well, Orozco's got 1 guy, Mo Vaughn.
Good pitch on the inside corner. Strike 2. Vaughn with his 42nd, 43rd, and 44th homers last night.
See how he's leaning out over the plate, trying to protect the outer half, and he gets surprised by the inside fastball.
His 44 home runs tie him with Yaz, third best as a Red Sox. Jimmy Fox 50, Jim Rice 46. The only 2 better.
Vaughn's got to go out and get this breaking ball now. Breaking ball on the outside part of the plate. Good sequence there. Now Orozco and Parent have an advantage. They've got both sides of the plate to work to. Orozco threw a very good fastball inside for the second strike in the at-bat. And then Vaughn fouled off a nasty slider. So the advantage in my mind is to the pitcher.
Outside, ball 3. And Davey working a couple extra sways at this part of the game.
He hadn't sat down for 4 innings.
Palmero was almost on the first base line. Mo's going to have a tough time squeezing that one down the line for extra base hits. But you can hit it over everybody. He's good at that. Base hit to right center field. Mo Vaughn delivers again. So the tying run is aboard with 2 out here in the 8th inning. Vaughn is 2 for 4 with a pair of singles. And with the right-handed batter, Jose Canseco due up. Davey Johnson will make a trip to the mound, and as you mentioned, Buck, Orozco is here to face up through Vaughn, and then we do something else.
Jesse Orozco battled tough, but with Canseco coming to the plate, his night's going to come to an end. Mo Vaughn singles to keep the inning alive and sets the table for Canseco.
Well, he gets to buy a little more time for Benitez in the bullpen. Drew Coble will give him, what is there, like 15 to 20, or different umps vary what they allow?
Just depends. The ump's going to start walking toward the mound now. Drew Coble's out there, and there's the sign from Johnson. He has called for Benitez. And Mo Vaughn won the confrontation against Jesse Orozco by singling the center.
So Armando Benitez will come in to face Jose Canseco. The Orioles leading in a 1-run game, 2 out, bottom of the 8th inning. Stick around. Mo Vaughn at first base with 2 out in the bottom of the 8th. He represents the tying run. And here's that swing that now has 203 hits.
Mo Vaughn had a great at bat. You can see he gets the fastball on a 3-2 count and rips it into center to keep the inning alive and set the table. He represents the tying run now. And hard-throwing Armando Benitez comes on. This is just his 16th appearance. He had a strained elbow ligament that forced him to the DL for 2.5 months, and now he is back in. He's got an overpowering fastball. That's why he has struck out 19.
And 12 1/3. Well, fastball against fastball hitter. Benitez against Canseco. Outside ball 1. Him up. Alomar calls for it. Canseco pops up, and the Red Sox are stymied here in the 8th inning. Benitez does the job. We head to the 9th. 3-2 Orioles.
ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball is brought to you by Slick 50 Advanced Formula Engine Treatment, America's favorite engine treatment.
Reached the 9th inning here at Fenway. The 3 runs that the Orioles hung up against Tim Wakefield in the first inning is still there. 2-run homer by Palmeiro and a double by Ripken. Lee Tinsley is the new Red Sox center fielder. He replaces Darren Bragg, who was pinch hit for by Will Cordero. Wakefield working to Bobby Bonilla, Cal Ripken, and Eddie Murray. Bobby Bo has been aboard twice. Hit by a pitch and scored the 3rd run when Ripken doubled him home. And walked in the 4th and flew out to left in the 7th inning. 6th inning. Manto, Vaughn, 1 out. Certainly after that first inning, Tim Wakefield is figured if he gives up 3 runs in this park, I get a win.
Yeah, he's given up just 3 hits to the powerful Baltimore Orioles, and that has been pretty much the trend. The Orioles hit just 237 against Wakefield before the start of this game, and that average is going down.
Every at bat, they give Cal the nice applause, as well they should. Cal 1 for 3, the double, and then 2 flyouts to left field. Looking ahead to the Red Sox 9th, Mike Greenwell, Bill Hasselman, Rudy Pemberton. Sky to short left, coming on is Greenwell. This time Garcia Parra hears him, gets out of the way, and there's 2 outs. He'd flip Slocum if you got him. Up throwing in the pen, but there's a glove that pops there a little bit differently than Wakefield, but just in case the Red Sox get something going. Slocum has really come on.
Second half has been great.
He had trouble in one of the games in New York, but he has been a big part of the Red Sox resurgence. Eddie Murray. That's a ball one from Wakefield. Eddie 0 for 2 with a walk. 2 ground balls to first base. Eddie, obviously, with the Orioles, the last 2 times they were in the series at 79 and 83. Would like to help him back this year. Last night, 21 runs and 24 hits. Tonight, 5 runs, 9 hits.
That's what you get when you come to Fenway. You never know what to expect. Eddie Murray has had his hands full with Tim Wakefield throughout his career.
Swings through that one. Yeah, Wakefield was such a shot in the arm, literally for the Red Sox last year, as he was for the '92 Pirates. Came out of nowhere, helped them get in the playoffs, and won 2 NLCS games against the Braves for Jim Leyland, '92. This time Murray walks. That's the second time that Eddie has drawn a base on balls. That's the 4th walk allowed by Tim Wakefield tonight. The mustaches are wild there on that Red Sox bench. Tim Johnson, Kevin Kennedy.
Number 17.
They were looking at their matchup charts as well, trying to see if B.J. Surhoff has any significant numbers against Tim Wakefield. Doesn't make any difference tonight the way Wakefield has been. Just 3 hits so far.
And B.J.'s numbers tonight are 0 for 3, and Murray will get pinch run for, and a nice round of applause as Eddie goes into the dugout, replaced by Manny Alexander. We haven't heard that name for a while with the Orioles, have you?
He was center of attention for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah.
6 games at shortstop when Cal moved over to third, and they made the move back to the regular lineup quickly.
You can see M. Alexander going to pinch run. And I just can't help but think of Matt Descat Alexander, one of those designated runners that Charlie Finley used to have for the A's. Jay flew out to left field, grounded to first. Go out to center field, pushes this one into right field for a base hit, so Alexander can run, and he's over to third base. And all of a sudden, the Orioles have something going here in the ninth. Kind of a bookend evening. 3 runs in the first, and now a couple of men on here in the ninth.
The catcher, number 24.
Well, as good as Wakefield has been, now Sammy Ellis talking to Kevin Kennedy about this situation. B.J. Surhoff gets his first hit of the night. You can see he was fooled, reaches for it, but pokes it through the hole on the right side. Manny Alexander goes first to third on the play with 2 outs. And now they've got a situation where they're trying to protect a 1-run lead, and Sammy Ellis is going to make his way out to the mound. They've got Slocum standing by, and if you think about it, that's a pretty devastating contrast. His 95, 96 mile-an-hour fastball after Wakefield's 75 mile-an-hour knuckleball.
Of course, Mark Perrin, who's batting now for Orioles, hasn't seen Wakefield all night, so they don't get the benefit if they make the move now. Really, though, what does a pitching coach go out and talk to a knuckleballer about? They really don't know. There's not a lot they can tell him.
No, it's just the time to give him a chance to regroup a bit. Tell you the pressure on the catcher right now.
Ripped by Parent to left field, and it is gone! Mark Parent entered the game defensively in the 8th. He may have hit the most important home run of the year for the Baltimore Orioles. 3-run shot. 6-2 Baltimore lead. We've seen homers by Pemberton, Garcia Parra, and Parent tonight.
Mark Parent, in his first swing of the ball game, it's a huge 3-run home run. He's been sitting on that bench through 7 innings, came in as a defensive replacement in the 8th, and his bat speed was perfect for that Wakefield knuckleball. It was Parent's home run that broke the all-time home run record in Detroit.
Yeah, he hit number 241, but that's just for the record books. This, look at Davey. We haven't seen that smile too much, have we?
Boy,
wow, what a blow.
More relaxed over on that dugout bench now.
What a big blow by Mark Parent. You know, play 162 games, Buck, and you know better than I, having been a major leaguer for so long, but Cal smiling, everybody's smiling, but, you know, momentum over the season. You know, the Orioles really, when they lost that game to New York, as Fry makes a nice play, stays with it and guns out Anderson. But now the Red Sox, instead of looking for 1, will need 4 to tie in the bottom of the 9th. Mark Parent, big home run. We said a bookend evening for the Orioles. 3 in the first and 3 in the 9th on Mark Parent's 3-run home run.
Well, Parent came in defensively in the 8th inning and got an at-bat, and he stepped in against Tim Wakefield. He's thinking swing all the way, and look at Wakefield's hand. It's another knuckleball, but there's not an awful lot of movement. It's like a breaking ball just sailed down and away, and Parent connects with a 3-run home run. A very frustrating inning to finish up for Tim Wakefield, who had been so good after giving up 3 in the first. And it's 1 swing of the bat, and now the Orioles have a 4-run lead.
Home run number 9 this year for Mark Parent, and that's the biggest blow of the year for the Orioles. Mike Devereaux has gone into right field to replace Bobby Bonilla. An Oriole that's come home. 28,432. But a lot of them have left the park after Parent's 3-run home run, and now Armando Benitez will try to nail it down for Rick Krivda, who deserves the win tonight. Oh, that's heat to Mike Greenwell, strike 1. You know, we're going on to the playoffs and possible games on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, etc. And we won't have all our regular Wednesday night crew here. And there's so many names to say thank you to. I'm going to miss some, but some of the ones that have weathered the storm on every Wednesday. Scott Cray and audio and great pictures coming our way. Our stalwarts like Robin Trower, Fogden, and camera, and Bruce Slider, and Stevie Lowe, and the deli. Mark Levy serving up the teases every night. Rob Green, Gene Kelly, and tape. I mean, it's just some of the people that have worked so very hard to bring you at home the pictures and the sights and sounds of Wednesday baseball, and we hope you appreciate their work, because we sure as heck do. We hope there will be at least some of them in the postseason. They're our guys. Good job, guys. Thank you. Two to Greenwell. Now this, if the Red Sox lose it, they are mathematically alive, but what they need is to win all 4 games with the Yankees. Have Baltimore lose all 4 games. Have Seattle lose every game but 1. Have the White Sox lose every game but 2, I think.
Pretty tall order.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But Greenwell says, hey, we've come back this year, and a fan interferes with it, and that'll be a ground rule double. So Greenwell with his 2nd hit of the night. And maybe, just maybe, the faithful here at Fenway said, let's see if we can mount one last charge. Don't forget the Giants and Dodgers coming up 10:30 Eastern. That's 8:30 Mountain Time. The Dodgers trying to steamroll toward the NL West flag, which they won last year, and trying hard to defend. Well, Bill Hasselman is up. He homered last night. Hey, look down and see a Red Sox wearing number 37. For those of us that sat here in the bleachers all those years, I don't think Bill Hasselman. I think of the spaceman, Bill Lee. But the best cover of Sports Illustrated we've ever seen, in the full space uniform with the windup on the mount.
Colorful, that's what he was.
Ground ball to Alomar. Robbie will take his time over to Palmeiro. There's one out. Greenwell to third. Rudy Pemberton homered tonight in the third inning, his first major league home run. He's also single. Rudy's hit the ball hard tonight.
Rudy Pemberton.
Well, he's had a great arm all throughout his career. He had a little bit of an elbow problem early on. They were really concerned he had a strained ligament in his elbow. But he'll get it up there, 95, 96 miles an hour with a good slider. That's an overpowering fastball.
Pitch on the way. Center field. Brady Anderson under it. Greenwell will tag it. And you're down by 4 runs, and the ball is in shallow center field. No need to try it. And the Red Sox are down to their last out. Yeah, Mo said, hey, we want to make the teams pay for it if we can, even though it doesn't look like we're going. He did all he could.
With a big hit in the 8th inning off of Jesse Orozco to keep the inning alive and give Jose Canseco a chance to tie the game up.
What a different flavor this game would have been if the Red Sox had equalized it. And Omar Garcia-Parra fouls it off. The Red Sox just gave it away in April, and it's just hard to climb that much of a mountain. For the Orioles, they've had, and Kevin knows, can't start out 6-19 and make much headway. Not the Yankees and the Orioles are in your division. Meanwhile, for the Orioles, although their sights were set on first place up until that series in New York, really, you get in, you get in. You deal with it then.
Yeah, when you play in the postseason, they don't put a WC by your name. They just say you're playing for the right to go to the World Series.
Oh, that's overpowering against Garcia-Parra. The Orioles will fly to Toronto tonight with their destiny in their hands. One up on Seattle in the loss column and 2 up on Chicago, who was trailing at last report. Gary will update all the scores between games. And as we said, this just about will do in the Red Sox. They'll be mathematically alive tomorrow, but barely.
Too many teams to crawl over. They look forward to the wild card, looking up at the White Sox, the Mariners, and the Orioles.
Roger Clemens slated to start Saturday amidst all the hoopla. 1 win, and he'd have the all-time win record here for the Red Sox. Down the line, but that's going to curve foul. He wants to win game 193, which would move him past Cy Young. Said anytime you could pass a guy that they named the pitching award after, I guess it's a good accomplishment. And he hopes to be back here next year, does Roger, but there'll be plenty in the papers about that in the offseason.
They put that up here last night. as a testimony to that 20 strikeout effort against the Tigers last Wednesday night. Also his first 20 strikeout night, April 29th, '86 against the Seattle Mariners right here in Fenway Park.
Benitez is trying to nail it down for Rick Kribden. Garcia hanging top. With this impending win tonight, Buck, and there's Mike Mussino. Of course, they need him to get going. He's been tagged the last couple of times. The Orioles now maybe regain some important footing. You like their chances in the first round against someone? They will not play the Yankees. We know that.
Well, it's tough when you go into the postseason. If you do make it, to be sputtering the way the Orioles have. They've been up and down here the last couple of weeks, and maybe Johnson knows that momentum is so important.
Yeah,
I think one thing that everybody's forgetting about is Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, well, that's who the Orioles won't forget about. That's who they would be lined up against. And the Indians, I mean, they clinched the pennant, but the division, but it's like they're on a mission now. They have they lost the game this month?
Boy, it's taken them a while to really get things put together. They've had so many changes. But the Cleveland Indians will be a very important club in the postseason.
2-2 to count to Garcia Parra. Greenwell at third. Fumble to right field. This will send Devereaux back. He's got room. Makes the catch, and the Baltimore Orioles have come and split this two-game series here in Boston. Mark Parent, 3-run home run in the 9th inning, and Davey Johnson and company, and Parent will have a pleasant flight to Toronto. So now with the Orioles win over the Red Sox complete, the wild card standings look this way. The Orioles maintain their 1.5 game lead over the Mariners. Chicago playing tonight and trailing at last report against the Royals are 2 back, and the Red Sox mathematically alive, but boy, that's a tall order. They need a lot of things to happen. But the Orioles came in here and got this win tonight, and they gambled with their 5th starter, so now they have all 4 starters ready to go against Toronto.
Well, Rick Kribden did his job, and then Mark Parent really put the capper on the cake here tonight with a 3-run shot in the 9th inning. And the Red Sox may have run out of gas here in September.
Don't forget, we've got the Dodgers coming up against the Giants at the bottom of the hour. Gary Miller is standing by to update us in Baseball Tonight studios. And we'll be back briefly here to Fenway Park. It's been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Stick around, plenty more baseball coming. Mark Parent, the big blow for the Orioles tonight. Sent this one all the way to Canada.